This video is from my series that walks you through how to build a career in film and television production. The other exercise is to build a network map. So that's taking this and filling out this part of it, which we went through earlier, right? The concept is to take your 20 admired shows, research the participants who are above the line or who are the hiring managers for the kind of work you're interested in. If it's creative, which is writers, directors, actors, and producers, you're focusing on the shows where you're interested so you can learn who the producers are and the showrunners or the executives connected to those projects. So once you've completed the research on your 20 shows, the names of the people in your vertical that you want to connect to, and then connecting dots if there are any, who works with who works on what, we've talked about it in the past. Remember, this is a referral business. It makes it hard to break in, absolutely. That is the impediment. It's a referral business. You have to get referred. But once you become a referral, you will work again and again and again. We want to use that to our advantage, which is why we're doing the research and connecting the dots. In our previous research, building out a network map, we made a list of people that we want to connect to. Now we're going to include any detail, company structure, contact information that you can find. If it's available, we want to include it in that same file. When I say structure, I'm talking about how a producer's company is built and what entry level or leveling up job is available. So you can be clear with your interviews of what you're looking for. You're framing your call. What do you do? Who am I? What do I want to be? I am a ... What you're essentially doing is you're framing your call so they can understand how you might fit into their world. A lot of this structured data probably won't come now. You probably won't find it online. You won't be able to connect dots. There'll be a little bit out there, but a lot of it's going to come when you start talking to people out in the industry, when you start connecting dots and when you start connecting with people. You'll ask questions, you'll hear things said, and it'll become clear to you how a particular company is structured. You're just going to make notes. This is the place you're going to put it. You want to put it in this file so it's in one place. The other thing we're collecting here is contact information, so that when it comes time to connect with people, with the dozen or 2 dozen or 3 dozen people that you want to connect with, do you call them? Do you email? Direct message on social? What's the platform? Where are they accessible? So we're going to do that research now. How will you connect with them? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Now, mind you, Twitter's not a great place, but it's basically an outrage machine. You might not find very many people in your vertical that you're looking to connect with on Twitter, but you probably will on LinkedIn and Facebook and possibly Instagram. And you could possibly even get directly connected through emails that you might find in some of the data services. The detail that we find in this module goes in the far right of the show analysis file, after the last column where it says production company. And we're going to include the information we find on an individual basis, and we put it next to the person that we're collecting for, as I've done here in the last column after the producers. We're going to include whatever information we can find and take note of where we found it. We find it on LinkedIn, Facebook. Did we find it on Twitter? Did we find an email? Did we find that they're connected to some charity, some alumni network? What are the places that we're finding connection with these people? We're doing the research about individual executives, about how we're going to connect to them, and we're collecting that data and storing it here. So when we go out to make the connection, we have it all in one place. It's clear, it's concise, and not confusing. We're collecting a lot of data, and we need to be able to organize it in a way where we can access it and use it in the future. We're taking the work that you did previously, where we were pulling names of our admired show list, to its next logical conclusion, going deeper into what we can learn about the executives that we're looking at and narrowing in on it. We want to see if we can find the structure of how their companies are built. We also might be able to see who their subordinates are. Who's the assistant at the desk? Who's the gatekeeper? Who do we need to know? Who's the receptionist? Who's the development executive? Who's the creative executive? Who's the director of development? These are the kinds of questions we're trying to answer. We're trying to see if we can find some information about these folks. Now, this is bitsy, in the weeds, even more than the previous exercise kind of research. Don't kill yourself here. In the last exercise, we probably spent anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes researching each show and collecting the names of the people that we want to try to connect to, or that we want to learn about, memorize, and get a landscape of the industry. There might not be a lot of detail about those people out in the web, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or Instagram. So if you find very little or nothing, don't be discouraged. It's an open slot in your database where you can collect information in the future. You don't have to sit down and collect it all in one sitting. That's not the point here. We're just collecting what's available, what we can find efficiently and quickly. Don't go down a rabbit hole. Don't spend hours looking for the needle in a haystack. If it's not accessible for the individuals that you're looking for in 10 or 15 minutes, in a couple of searches, depending how deep you want to go, then put it up. Don't get obsessed. Move on. We're simply looking for a way to connect. Do they have LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter? Can we get an email? Is there an alumni network? All the things I've talked about, you just document them here. Okay, executive research. We're going to use things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you can find to lift titles, people's past shows, which we've also talked about, school and alumni networks, affiliations, charities, organizations, that kind of thing. And then who works for these people? And you'll pick that up largely from the trades. And that's what the trades are often built for. Or in LinkedIn, sometimes you can figure out who has worked for a particular person by finding them, by connecting with them, not connecting with them, by researching them through a second or a third, right? So ultimately, you're taking those names and you're just going to do some research on LinkedIn to see whether or not those personalities or those people have assistants that you can identify in those places. You're not necessarily going to use LinkedIn to connect to them, although you can, and a lot of people do. Yeah. But you are more looking to see if you can make a connection to build out your spider web and connect some dots with an assistant or a mid-level person who you can get to. Ultimately, you're trying to find somebody who can get you to the target. And that's why we build this map out, and that's where we do the research. Okay, resources, trades, deadline. We talked about that. Variety, the reporter. You should be going through them every day, just picking out names, connecting dots, putting them into your database. Google, just do a Google search the person's name. See if it's them. LinkedIn. There's also the services we talked about, which are lead and data services. They are expensive, for sure. ZoomInfo is a $10,000 a year license per person per head to get access to everything. I'm not suggesting you spend any money on any of these. There are free alternatives to ZoomInfo, and there are other data services. I think Prospect, Clearbit Connect, Rocket Reach, they're free at the moment. That might change in the future. By the way, D&B is short for Dun & Bradstreet. They're probably the oldest data collector for business. They've been around for probably over 100 years, a long time. And there are also other platforms in this space, and you should see which ones can provide information that are free. Just do a search on ZoomInfo or Clearbit or Prospect or any of the ones listed above, and you'll get alternatives. You'll get competitors. These data providers are changing all the time. They change what information is available for free and what isn't, and we use them for organization structures. Oftentimes they'll have VP and then people who sit below them and the names connected to all of those. But you have to pay to get the email address, but you don't care about the email address as much as you care about the structure, right? So you can use these services to do, just to collect intelligence about them. And if you can get to that person's name and their email and you can do it for free, by all means, do it. Connect with them. But when you send those emails out, do the research, pick something that you can connect directly to that person with, because you are cold calling them. And some people you will just flat out piss off. And some people you won't. So, you know, if you're comfortable with it and you're okay with making people angry and you don't really give a shit, and it's not your intention, obviously, but if you're comfortable and you don't really care, then about someone's reaction, or about the fact that you can just put your tail between your legs and say, I'm so sorry. I really admire your work. I'll leave you alone. Whatever, however you want to say that, which honestly, I have no problem doing that. It's a lot of intelligence gathering and figuring out how to close these open holes that you can drive a truck through. And I only bring these services up because not a lot of people use them. They don't even know about them. But these places have an enormous amount of data, and they may be able to connect for you. You just don't know. And they collect a crazy amount of data. You would be absolutely surprised how easy it is to get someone's email without knowing them, if you're comfortable with using that as a way of connecting with people. And then IMDb Pro, which doesn't really provide you much more than IMDb does. Studio Systems is a lot better at it, but Studio Systems is another very expensive one, which is why I don't list it here, because the licenses are stupid expensive. And the same with Variety. They have a Variety database, which doesn't have email addresses. But anyway, I use it and to download some of the names of how the overhead deal structures are set up in town. But IMDb Pro is another one. But really, all you're going to get at IMDb Pro are connected information about how to get to someone's manager. So yeah, this week is really, it's doing the research, and it's in the weeds, little bitsy detail, getting down into connecting dots. And the next step is taking that data in week 3 and figuring out, how do we get the information? I call it week 3 is implementing your map, right? You're mapping out the industry and trying to figure out who you want to connect to at what level, and how, and then figuring out, how do we actually connect to those people? That's the implementing the map part. So in this last step of this week's work is to focus on collecting our producer, executive, showrunner, whatever information about how to connect or how their organizations are structured. We're looking for whatever we can find about the people that we put on our favorite show list. Executive research. In this work, we're looking to make sure we haven't left any information out of our research. We are making our data as complete as possible. Next week, we'll start to whittle down who we're going to connect with, and having the information about how to connect to each one of those individuals we want to hit will make that job even faster.